The North Carolina DMF has officially announced the 2025 flounder season to be from September 1st to the 14th. So congratulations, everybody. You are getting some kind of a season this year, although it is very, very short as a 2-week season. With House Bill 442, we would have gotten a guaranteed 6 weeks. Now, I've previously had a problem with this because of the science, but for those of you who don't really believe in the science, if we examine the historical commercial landings in North Carolina and we look at the last time they had about 750,000 pounds, you'll find that 2019 is a pretty close match for that. Now we take a look at the recreational rules for 2019. Then you'll see that rec had not 1 fish, but 4 fish per day for 6 weeks of the year. So 442 was ultimately a very, very bad deal for the recreational sector. And another reason to not support this, if they give them a 750,000 pound quota, it's going to put this large mesh gill net back in the water maybe 6 months out of the year. And as you can see right here, it's not going to catch just flounder. That redfish is no longer available for people to catch or to grow up and have more babies. So from a recreational perspective, you really don't want, not just for the flounder situation, but you really don't want a lot of large mesh back in the water. So if that thing happens to pop back up, please still do not be in support of it. There were so many posts all over Facebook that were saying that this study that was going to come out was just going to completely vindicate the trawls. And of course, that study had absolutely nothing to do with looking at trawls whatsoever at all. It was simply reviewing the processes that the North Carolina DMF uses to establish how much stock there is there and the way we make our decisions, the whole Marine Fisheries Commission management process. This was a third-party group of people from educational institutions that came down and assessed all this. And basically what they came back with was what I've been telling you guys all along. The DMF, the biologists, are doing quite often more science and better science, like more informed science, than the majority of the states in this country for fisheries. But it did point out a major problem, and it's something that we've known for quite a while. I've never really talked about it. So I've talked about the trawls. I've talked about how the trawls discard the same weight in tiny little baby flounder as the total allocation for the entire recreational sector. And none of those flounder that are discarded are counted against the commercial quota in the same way that MRIP calculates dead discards for the recreational sector. Anyway, I just repeat that every chance I get. The problem that it pointed out, P&As are primary nursery areas. These are areas established generally off limits to trawling or other activities in order to protect these little small juvenile fish. And this study showed that the P&As are not working. And then, of course, there are all the problems that anybody who's been involved with the fisheries management process already knows all about. So we have this great science. We have very intense management in the state of North Carolina. We do have very intense management. We do have a ton of data that's being pulled in to analyze where the stock is at. But the Marine Fisheries Commission is often not making decisions at all based off all of this information that they have to work with. They simply make the decision that they make based off their own political stance, whatever worldview they have about what they want. And we see commercial guys that do things that screw over other commercial guys sitting on the commission. We see recreational people that would do the same. They're making decisions based off their own personal desire in this. Other issues, massive stakeholder distrust. So the recommendations put forward to fix a lot of this, a lot of it has to do with transparency and with overhauling the Marine Fisheries Commission and the way it works. So instead of having the, instead of having the breakdown that we have now, you would actually have to have a majority ruling across all the seats in order to overrule the DMF, right? So I know many of you don't like the science, you don't support it, and I understand your positions. I truly do. I know where you're at. Just look at the writing on the wall. They've told us this is what you need to do, and we didn't do it, and it got worse. They said this is what you need to do, and we didn't do it, and it got worse. And there are other species that have, rebounded. Other species that are doing better in the state of North Carolina. Redfish has not changed since 1997, something like that. So it is possible to make these adjustments so that the science starts to support not changing anything, or that the science shows a recovery in these fish. It is pretty simple. They also suggested more outreach, which is something that the DMF director, Kathy Rawls, has been pushing for a very, very long time. That's why she's taken time to sit down with me and other people. The DMF is extremely open already, but they want them to have, like a social media sort of presence, more of a social media presence, someone who specializes in putting messages out to the public to tell people what's going on, which is basically what I've been trying to do for years now, because I feel that this was something that's very, very necessary. There is also a suggestion to fix the primary nursery areas with just better informed data, because those P&As that are supposed to be giving better survivability to these juvenile fish are simply not working. So croaker, spots, weakfish, flounder, basically all of the species affected by trolls are not seeing recovery, which means the P&As are not working. If we look at Louisiana, where they do have some inshore trawling, but it's dramatically different than it is here, they have pretty good success with using trawls inshore and still having a nice strong fishery. So there is perhaps some kind of middle ground, but what we deal with on the political side of things is a bunch of guys on the commercial side that are simply not willing to give up a single shrimp. And I think as we go forward, this is going to get just more and more extreme until we eventually just have our last topic of the day, a little bit of good old-fashioned American patriotic civil disobedience. All right, for anybody who has not seen my video, the Real Trawl Numbers, that covers the Kevin Brown study, it's long, it's boring, and it's got a whole bunch of numbers in it, but that is where I break down the Kevin Brown study, the scientific gold standard for analyzing what the trolls are doing in North Carolina. This is data that we have. This is a DMF document that we have, and it shows that, I don't remember the exact number, 780,000 flounder. I'll put it on the screen if I remember. So we have 708,000 flounder dying every single year in the trawls and not being counted as dead discards. There's no numbers because, we just don't have the science, but we do have the science. And just to show you how ridiculous it is for the recreational sector, in order to calculate our dead discards. So when they ask you a question at the ramp for MRIP about how many flounder you caught that day, do they ask you how big the flounder was? The answer is no, they don't. They have no idea how big the flounder was. And yet our management system operates on pounds removed. Now, this is something that was actually changed in the past. And I have a suspicion, I haven't confirmed any of this yet, but I have a suspicion that there might be somebody out there in particular that this benefits using pounds rather than numbers. Anyway, so the DMF somehow decided, and I'm not calling them out on this. They were told to put this together, whatever. I don't know the exact specifics, but the DMF used a South Carolina tagging study to determine that the average weight of a flounder released recreationally is 0.2 pounds. I don't know about you guys, but I don't catch any 0.2 pound flounder. I catch 2, 3, 5 pound flounder, stuff like that. I might catch, some 1 pound flounder, even every once in a while, a little half pound flounder. But I really try to avoid them anyway because all the crap's going on. Not my favorite fish to eat, not my favorite fish to catch. Please make it make sense. Please make it make sense about how our dead discards get counted. And in fact, the dead discards from the commercial gillnet fishery also are counted against the commercial quota. The gillnet fishery is counted against commercial quota for dead discards, but the trawls, which have this massive impact, are not being counted at all. How is this possible? There are studies from other states, for sure. Why could we not use a study from another state? If we can use a study from another state to calculate the weight of the recreational dead discards. And I believe it's because the discards from the North Carolina commercial fishery, most specifically the trawls, are actually higher than the total allowable catch for both sectors. And that's why we're not seeing recovery. Everybody else has taken this huge punch right in the gut across all commercial fisheries and recreational fishermen. And yet there's no recovery. Now, I know a ton of you on Facebook are already being wildly civilly disobedient. You go out and have no limit on flounder now. I see it literally everywhere. And guys, I really hope that this just doesn't make things even worse. I can't bring myself to do that, although I understand that when the system that controls the way things work does not give you justice, almost like as an American, it's kind of your responsibility to be disobedient, to fight back, to push back against that system. But here's my idea to try to level the field. Mandatory reporting, folks. Mandatory reporting. You all hate the idea of something new. You all hate the idea of something you have to do. But there's a very good reason that the commercial sector has had reporting in the same way for a long time, because it gives them control of their numbers. If you can build this in, the DMF is forced. They can't do anything else. They are forced to take the numbers that you give them. Now, from what Kathy Rawls, the director of the DMF, has told me so far, they will not be able to use this data at least for quite some time. And there are very good reasons behind that. I'm not going to get into all the details of statistics and the way that they do that science, but basically you have to get You have to have enough data for a long enough period of time. You have to know you have enough participation and it's legitimate enough to where you get some kind of a balance, to where you start to see trends and patterns that are predictable and reliable. But having control over your numbers is an absolutely great thing. Start participating with the mandatory reporting. And the last note, all over social media, I have seen people that are affiliated with the commercial industry posting this, and you need to be aware of this. They're telling everyone, they're giving people the idea that if you see an MRIP surveyor and you report that you caught 75 trout and 37 flounder and 42 redfish, that it will somehow tell the DMF that the stock is in good shape, and this is not the case. This will simply tell the DMF that wreck killed even more fish and make your seasons shorter. I think a lot of people decide to disengage from these arguments because they're so complex and there's so much information that's coming from everywhere. So let's keep it really simple, right? This is America. We are all equal. We all have equal ownership, and we deserve equal access. If everyone cannot do it, then no one should be able to do it. And there's really no justification whatsoever at all to overrule that, with the exception that they have the blessing of the majority of the remaining people. And in the case of fisheries, they absolutely do not have the blessing to continue to trawl in our waters. They do not have that blessing from the vast majority of the people of North Carolina. But legislators don't really know that because not enough people reach out, not enough people are active. All right, I'd really appreciate it if you all spread the word, and please start to participate in mandatory reporting, as many people as possible. Please give accurate information. If you want their data to be good, you need to give them accurate information. There's going to be a lot more to follow. I'm going to try to condense this more and shorten it down. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next one.